Well, good afternoon, everybody. And let me, on behalf of 700,000 Washingtonians, congratulate the class of 2019 at the School Without Walls. Principal Trogish, faculty, staff, parents, students of Walls, and graduates, we are so incredibly proud of the work that you have done these last 4 years to achieve your diplomas today. Over 90% of you have been accepted into college. You have received $2.5 million in scholarships so far. You have donated 20,000 hours to the community in community service, including one of you who have completed over 450 hours, and that's Eleanor Hart. It was just over 4 years ago that each of you found out that you had earned a spot in this prestigious school. You accepted the challenge. You and your families made the commitment to do the work and to be on this stage today. And while I'm sure it hasn't always been easy, you worked hard, you made your families proud along the way, and you deserve to celebrate today and to get back to work tomorrow, because you know it's time to focus on college and what's next in your lives. For me personally, it's also bittersweet, as I know some of your parents are feeling today too. I've known some of you since you graduated from Lafayette. I was at that promotion ceremony. I followed you to Deal, where I was at that promotion ceremony. I spent a lot of times in living rooms with your parents, at auctions, talking about your futures and how we could all invest together in our wonderful DC public school system. Sometimes when students graduate, people talk about now how you're entering the real world. And as I listen to your 4-year survivor stories, I know you've been living in the real world. We are all living in the real world here in our great city. And it doesn't get much realer sometimes than right here in Washington, D.C., as a reflection of our greater communities, the history, and the current state of our nation. You and we all reflect the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, and the hopeful. Locally, the D.C. we know and love is a place that represents triumph and inclusion. We are a city that during great times of oppression has served as a sanctuary for the oppressed, giving rise to our own distinct culture, passing on a sense of pride in ourselves and our city that has been developed over generations. Over the years, from Petworth to Georgetown to Congress Heights, we have become one of the most diverse cities in the world, a diversity that is reflected right here on this stage and at the School Without Walls. And our embrace and celebration of that diversity has become ingrained in our culture and is the basis, the very foundation of our DC values. But in our role as the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. is also a city that represents some of history's greatest contradictions and our nation's most stubborn challenges. We are both the seat of our federal government, surrounded by buildings and monuments that honor our democracy, but also home to 700,000 disenfranchised Americans living in the shadow of the Congress we have no vote in. We are a city desperate to close opportunity gaps, to get guns off our streets, to build the housing we need to end homelessness and ensure that everyone in our city has access to a safe and affordable home. But like many booming cities in our nation, at every turn, these very national issues are treated like local concerns that we must figure out how to solve on our own without the help of our federal government. And so today, as I look at this graduating class, I feel proud, but I also feel a tremendous sense of relief, likely different than some relief felt by our families. I feel the relief that 146 more young people, young men and women who have grown up in a city, that have been raised well, who have been invested in at every turn, will help us build a path forward for our entire nation. While adults are busy calling each other names or shutting down the government or putting politics over people, our young people are ready to act. Not only are they ready to act, they've been taught how to act. And they will go out into the world. Some will stay in D.C., others will go to the 50 states. Some will go globally, and they will represent our D.C. values. I learned about Kevin Akers, who is graduating today at the age of 16. If you don't know, Kevin was part of the Space Club here at Walls. He started STEM for the Streets, a STEM-based mentoring program for young students of color in D.C. To me, Kevin and his program embodied the community spirit of Walls and of Washington, D.C., making the most of our own experiences and finding ways to pay it forward. That's how we empower our community and how we build the world we want to live in. I know that the education you received here at Walls has prepared you to tackle all the challenges that come your way. I also want to share with you a piece of advice that I heard. A young girl asked Senator Kamala Harris in a meet and greet, simple question, and it was a question that you may ask yourselves as you move forward in the world. And she asked her, "How are you such a good public speaker?" And her answer stuck with me because it's something I always want you to keep in the back of your mind too. Senator Harris simply said, and she asked the young lady this question, what if you were on the Titanic and you were scared to speak up, but you happened to be the only one who knew the ship was sinking and how to get off? And so she said, ask yourself that question if you're ever afraid to speak because you think you're not good enough, you don't look well enough, you don't know the issues enough. You know what you know and you know your own experiences. So you should stand up straight, square your shoulders, and speak up. And let the world know what you know. Will you do that? Will you do that? And so one by one, I ask you to go out, share your experiences, your thoughts, your ideas to the world. Never let yourself believe that someone else's story matters more than yours, or that there is someone out there better prepared to accomplish what you want to make happen in this world. If you know what I know, there will always be somebody who will tell you, you're too young to do that. Women don't do that. Black girls can't make it in that lane. So be brave, be yourselves, and challenge yourselves to be great. Speak up and share what you know. So this afternoon, I learned how important it is to keep dancing when it rains. That's a good life lesson. I also learned that you have to turn a no or a disappointment into an opportunity. And I learned that you learn to speak up for your friends, to stick with them, and let that speaking up be a reflection of your values. I learned that you learned to be resilient. You have to be resilient in this world. And up until this point, your parents and your family, your teachers, your counselors have been that village that have let you weather storms because they were there. They're still going to be there, but sometimes just not right there. So you have to learn to take no, learn from it, move on, and be resilient. And I can't think of a better way to cap off advice than what your classmates said in loving yourself and asking for help. You asked me to be the keynote speaker, but you had all of the advice to give yourselves. Those were good lessons that you learned here in your 4 years at Walls, in addition to everything that your teachers and your parents and all of your family have shared with you. We also know this, that when we talk about your school, we know about Walls here, but because of your achievements, the entire nation knows that you are one of the top high schools in the United States of America. So carry the achievements that you have earned. Be ambassadors for our city. And you heard all of the things that I talked about that we need to work on together. So no matter where you go, know that Washington, D.C. is your home. God bless you all.